Hello and welcome back to Beckler Guitars and Repair, and today we're checking out a pretty cool guitar. This is a 2017 Squier Classic Vibe Telecaster Custom. And I really think that this is on par with a US made Fender. Let's get into why. So the Classic Vibe series was introduced in 2008 as to be sort of a budget-friendly version of classic Fender designs with a few sort of modern appointments. They were manufactured at the Grand Reward factory in China, and that factory is really well known for putting out really high quality stuff. And their early runs in particular, like the first run, used all, the same really high quality materials and parts as US, counterparts. For example, this guitar has an alder body, a real rosewood fingerboard. It's got a quarter sawn maple neck, and some really high quality components like Alnico 5 single coil pickups and synthetic bone nut, and just nice looking hardware. So this is very similar in terms of materials to like a USA Fender. The Classic Vibe manufacturing location has switched over for a couple of years at different factories to Indonesia and then to other factories in China. These version 1 ones though are kind of being a little bit more sought after lately, and people are really recognizing them for how good they are. Some of the newer versions have like Pau Ferro fingerboards or Indian Laurel and like basswood bodies, that kind of thing. But these first versions really did have the similar materials to like the USA versions. So here it is on the bench. So if you really know what year you're looking for, you can still pick these up for crazy prices sometimes. Like I found this one on Facebook Marketplace for sale for $250, which is a crazy price for all things considered for this guitar, just the the craftsmanship and the materials and stuff like that. And we're going to get into that. So this is a 3-tone sunburst body. This is an alder body, and this guitar was in really good condition. It does have this one little ding here behind the bridge. I think that's like the worst thing I can see on this whole guitar. Yeah, it's just cosmetic. But yeah, this has the cream pickguard. It's still got the plastic on there. It's got a really nice gloss finish. That 3-tone sunburst looks great. And being a Telecaster custom, it's bound on the top and the back. Again, it's got those Alnico 5 single coil pickups. They do sound great. I've plugged this in before I bought it, and I just really like the way it sounded. We've got our knurled, tele knobs, 3-way switch, and really nice rosewood fingerboard with the clay dot inlays, medium jumbo frets, and the fretwork on this thing is great. We'll get into that in a little bit here. And then we've got a synthetic bone nut with our Squier Fender Telecaster logo, vintage style tuners, and our vintage style string tree. This is a quarter sawn maple neck, and it's just got that kind of vintage lacquer tint on there. Yeah, the tuners seem fine. I have no issues with them. They seem tight and they keep tuned very well. And we can see there, this is a 2017 model. The CGS is what designates it as the Grand Rewards factory, and those are the kind of these are the ones that kind of people are sort of looking for now, and they kind of command a bit of a premium on the used market. Really nice looking neck, feels good too. There's our Squier neck plate, and it's got some really nice grain in the alder body as well. When you pick up this guitar, it really feels quality. Like sometimes on the cheaper Squier models, or some of the other years, you can pick it up and you can kind of feel, you know, it feels a little cheap in terms of just like fret edges and maybe the feel of the finish. But this guitar, when I first got it, it was set up like perfectly. You could really get super low action. The frets were super polished. I'm not sure if there has been some work done to this guitar after the fact to make it that way, but it really puts out a good impression, especially when I first picked it up. The guy who I bought it from, he said he never played it, so I don't think it had any sort of a setup done. So okay, let's go ahead and get some specs, take this thing apart, and see what all the individual pieces and parts look like here. So the strings almost look like new, so I kind of want to preserve them, so I'll try to reuse them if I can. Alright, let's take a peek under the pick guard here. Okay, so here's a look at our neck pickup route. So it's routed for a humbucker size, so you can either put a single coil or a humbucker in there. And there's a look at our Alnico 5 pickup. So I read online that these are kind of unbranded Tone Rider pickups, so they're quite decent pickups. I can attest to them. I plugged them in, it sounded great. This one has a model number of the TCA1N and K for neck. And our quality of the route looks good. You can see it's all shielded in there, so if you do put a humbucker in there, you're not going to have an issue with grounding or noise probably. But yeah, it looks good. Let's have a look at the bridge pickup. Okay, so yeah, there's not a lot of room on the cord or on the cable for the bridge pickup, so let's get kind of a sneaky peek in there. Looks like it's the model number on it is TCA1BBK for bridge, and this is an Alnico 5 pickup. We can see our ground wire there underneath, and the route is shielded as well. But it looks like a nice clean route. And yeah, everything looks as it should there. Nice quality. And here's a look at our bridge. So it's a 3-saddle bridge with threaded saddles. So a lot of people really like these because you can really dial in your string spacing by kind of moving the strings over to each notch. So you can kind of customize it that way. I think that the brass saddles that have the compensated saddles on it are a little bit better for intonation. You can still intonate these with the spring on the back, but that might be something some people might want to upgrade with these guitars, is putting in some like brass compensated saddles. Again, that's pretty easy to do. You just swap these out and there's a screw. But yeah, cool. Alright, and here's a look at our control cavity. So yeah, nice clean routes, shielded. They're using full-size pots, which is nice to see. Those are 250K pots with a little green capacitor there. And looks like a cheaper 3-way switch. That might be the only thing I would maybe recommend swapping out. This switch feels pretty cheap, but you know, it gets the job done. It's not going to affect sound or anything else like that. It's just these cheap switches tend to fail over time, but I'm just going to leave it as is because there's no issues with it. But yeah, the full-size pots look good, cleanly wired, and the cavity looks good as well. And here's a look at the Tele style side-mounted output jack. This one doesn't have any screws on the inside. You can see these ones that have screws that kind of secured in place. These ones are just kind of pressure fitted into the wood, so they can pop out sometimes. As long as you're careful though, it should be fine. This one seems quite solid. Here's a look at our neck, and it's got a date on there, kind of like the old Fenders, which is cool. 2017, 9th month, first day. And then here's a look at our neck route. Looks like there's some factory markings in there too, with pencil, so similar to like old Fenders. And we can see our nice alder wood grain in there. I don't see any seam lines in there, so I'm wondering how many piece body this is. I don't see any pieces or seam lines on the body either. So this might be one piece of alder, but I'm not sure for sure. And it looks like a nice clean route. There's no shims or anything from the factory. Even some, I've seen USA Fenders brand new come with shims from the factory, so that's great. And then let's check our neck pocket. Yeah, it's got a nice fitting neck pocket. Kind of snaps into place. And there's not a lot of room for slop. So yeah, nice tight fitting neck pocket as well. Taking a little closer look at the neck, you can see it's got really nice rosewood grain on there, and the clay dots look really nice. The frets themselves have almost no wear. They're super shiny. There's a little bit of oxidation over on this end. I'm going to go ahead and polish these up to make them super shiny, but there's no fret sprout at all. And it looks like the ends are very nicely done, and the fingerboard edge is nice and rounded as well, which is a nice little detail, and it makes a guitar neck feel nice and worn in, and it's extra work too, so that is a very nice feature. And then yeah, our quarter sawn neck, you can see there's no scarf joint, it's just one piece of maple. It looks great. It's got that really nice vintage tint. And I did check all the frets with a fret rocker too, and everything's super nice and level. So I'm not sure if it came like that from the factory, but again, this guy said he just never played it, so I would assume that no work has been done to this guitar in terms of fret work or setup. And here's a look at the nut. It looks well cut. It's not too deep. I noticed the action was really nice here in the cowboy cord area. I'm going to go ahead and polish up and clean this fingerboard. Put the guitar back together, and then we can check the setup. And just a quick look at the finished frets. Super shiny, and yeah, no wear. They look good. Alright, all back together, and I managed to get a really nice setup on this Tele. Again, it came pretty much perfectly set up, intonated, and I checked all the frets with the fret rocker. They're all perfect. So in terms of setup, this thing came already great. And again, the guy said he didn't really play it or do anything. He just bought it, and this was the way it was. So you can see with our notch straight edge that there's very little relief in the neck. There's just a very tiny gap between the straight edge and the fingerboard. So that means that the truss rod is set nice and tight. And then here in the 3rd fret area, you can see that when I use the 3rd fret, that the string is resting against that 1st fret. So that tells us that the truss is set nice and tight, the neck is straight, and the nut is cut well there. So we've got good action there. And then in the 12th fret area, we've got a between 0.75 and 1 millimeter at the low E at the 12th fret, and at the high E it's between a 0.5 and a 0.75. So very low action, especially for a guitar in this price point. You know, typically I find that the more attention to detail on the guitar in terms of fret work and setup and that kind of a thing, the lower the action you can get. And that's usually indicative of, like, you know, a higher end guitar. So getting this low action on like a, you know, a more budget model is nice. Just going to quickly go through the fingerboard to make sure there's no buzzing or fretting out anywhere. I like to speed up this part, but if you want to hear it in real time, just slow down your player to 25%. So yeah, very nice low action with no fretting out or buzzing anywhere. And the highly polished frets just feel great. It has a nice sound acoustically as well. Really rings out nicely. And the neck feels really good. Again, there's no fret sprout at all. It's a thinner neck than what I usually prefer, but it does feel very smooth and it's quite comfortable. Let's get some neck dimensions. Weighing in at 7 pounds, 12.4 ounces, or 3.526 kilograms. Let's check out our Alnico 5 pickup reading. So in the bridge position, it's reading a 5.95-ish. In the neck position, that is a 6.60, and in the middle, a 3.17. Width at the nut is a 1.679, or a 42.65 millimeters, and at the 12th fret, that's a 51.57 millimeters, or a 2.03 inches. Neck depth at the first fret is a 0.818 inches, or a 20.79 millimeters, and at the 12th fret, that is a 22.25 millimeters, or a 0.876 inches. Here's a look at the neck profile. So yeah, it's a pretty standard rounded C, and it stays quite rounded by the 12th fret. So this is a 9.5 inch radius for the fingerboard, and a standard 25.5 Fender scale. And the neck feels good. Yeah, it's just a nice comfortable C. It's not too big. I usually don't go for these kind of necks because I got larger hands, but it feels quite comfortable for me. And just a quick look at the condition of the guitar. It's in really clean shape. The headstock's got no marks or dings. Again, our fingerboard is nice and shiny. I mean, our frets are nice and shiny. The fingerboard's nice and clean. And there's no fret wear that you can see. The body, super clean, gloss. If you hold it into the light, there's hardly any marks, scuffs, scratches, or anything. There's a couple of fingerprints on there that I'll clean off. The only thing that you can see is this kind of ding in the back. I'm not sure if something fell on the guitar while it was sitting there or bumped against something, but there is one little ding. Again, it's just in the finish. You can feel it. It's just cosmetic though. And the back, yeah, if you hold it in the light, there's no buckle rash or scuffs. Again, just some fingerprints I'm going to clean off. And no marks or impressions on the neck. Yeah, nothing else. This guitar is almost like mint except for that one ding. So, yeah, that's great. Alright, I'm plugged into my super simple tube amp clone, the Fender Champ. And we're just going to go through each position clean and then with a little bit of dirt. So yeah, it sounds great, clean. These pickups sound great. It sounds like a proper high-end Tele for sure. I'm gonna go ahead and try it out with a little bit of dirt. Alright, so one of my final thoughts on the 2017 Classic Vibe Telecaster Custom. Fantastic guitar. I mean, this thing really blew me away. I used to play Teles all the time. That used to be my main guitar. And then I have recently kind of switched over to humbuckers. But I've owned a lot of high-end Teles over the years. And this thing is just as good, if not better, than any of the ones that I've owned. It's really, really great. The pickups sound awesome. The materials are there. Like, you've got your solid alder body, quarter sawn maple neck, rosewood fingerboard, really nice hardware. The nuts really well cut. The fretwork's amazing. You can get super nice and low, lower than some of my other like US Teles, without having to do any fretwork at all. The pickups, yeah, the Alnico 5s, great pickups, and the neck pocket was tight. And I really love the feel of the neck. It's got a really nice shape to it. Polished the frets, so it's super easy to bend and play. Very nice low action. Good weight. Just everything you're looking for in a Tele. This checks all the boxes. And when comparing it to a USA Fender, this is just this specific example. Obviously, the QC and stuff like that is going to be a little bit more involved on the higher end instruments. But I'm just judging the one in my hands right now, and this thing required like no setup, no anything, and it plays and sounds just as good as an American. Again, take that with a grain of salt. This is just this specific example, and again, this is one of the early versions of the classic vibes. The newer ones are a little bit different in terms of materials and where they're made, and I can't attest to those ones in terms of quality, but this one is amazing. If I had to change anything on this guitar, I guess I would change the switch out. The switch is, pretty cheap. It's got full-size pots, so those are fine, but it definitely has like a cheaper switch. But again, I'm just going to leave it until it fails, or there's no real point in switching it out unless you have to. And then some people might not like the notched saddles and might swap those out for some like compensated brass saddles. And then maybe the nut could be a bone nut. I know some of the newer versions of the classic vibes have bone nuts, and this is a synthetic bone. But again, just tiny minor gripes. And otherwise, I would say this is as good or better than a US Fender. So if you can find one of these early versions of the classic vibes for a good price, definitely pick them up. I think these are going to be going up in value as people kind of realize how good they are. But that's going to be it for today. Thank you for tuning in to Beckler Guitars and Repair, and I'll have more for you really soon. Thanks a lot.